What happened when a brilliant engineer was stripped of her position and forced to answer phones? She discovered that the front desk gave her the perfect vantage point to watch her boss steal ideas, and the perfect opportunity to turn the tables with a patent that would make her millions while destroying his career forever. My name is Sarah Martinez, and at 37, I thought I had it all figured out. Senior software engineer at Apex Technologies, corner office on the 15th floor, and a salary that let me drive my red Mustang convertible to work every morning with confidence. I'd been with the company for 8 years, climbing the ladder one innovative solution at a time. That Tuesday morning in March started like any other. I grabbed my usual vanilla latte from the Starbucks downstairs and headed to my office, ready to present my latest breakthrough to the board. I'd been working on a revolutionary data compression algorithm that could save companies millions in storage costs. This was my ticket to the VP position I'd been gunning for. But instead of walking into a boardroom full of executives eager to hear my presentation, I walked into an ambush. "Sarah, we need to talk," said my boss, Derek Richardson. He was standing by my desk with Linda from HR, both wearing those uncomfortable smiles that scream bad news. Derek was the kind of guy who wore expensive suits but couldn't code his way out of a paper bag. He'd been promoted to CTO 6 months ago, right over my head, despite having half my experience and none of my technical skills. His claim to fame? A charming smile and a golf handicap that impressed the board. "There's been a reorganization," Linda said, clutching her folder like a shield. "We're streamlining the engineering department." My stomach dropped. What does that mean for me? Derek couldn't even look me in the eye. "You'll be transitioning to a new role. Administrative support. You'll be working the front desk." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. 8 years of dedication, countless late nights, groundbreaking innovations, all reduced to answering phones and signing for packages. "This is temporary, right?" I asked, though I already knew the answer from Derek's expression. "We'll see how things develop," he said, which was corporate speak for never. And just like that, my corner office became someone else's, and I found myself sitting behind a reception desk, watching my former colleagues avoid eye contact as they walked past. The first week behind that reception desk was pure torture. Every morning, I'd park my Mustang in the same spot, but instead of taking the elevator to the 15th floor, I'd walk to the lobby and sit behind a curved wooden desk that felt more like a prison. "Good morning, Apex Technologies, how may I direct your call?" became my new mantra. I must have said it 1,000 times that first week, each repetition feeling like a small death. My replacement in engineering was a fresh-faced kid named Jake who looked like he'd barely graduated college. I watched him struggle with tasks that would have taken me minutes, while Derek praised him for innovative thinking. The same Derek who used to rely on me to explain basic programming concepts during meetings. The worst part wasn't the phone calls or the package deliveries, it was the pitying looks from my former colleagues. Some would stop by the desk and make awkward small talk, asking how I was adjusting. Others pretended I didn't exist, rushing past with their eyes glued to their phones. But Jennifer Walsh, my former cubicle neighbor, was different. She'd stop by every morning with an extra coffee and the latest office gossip. "This is insane, Sarah," she whispered during one of our brief conversations. "Everyone knows you're the best engineer we have. Derek's just intimidated by you." I corrected her. I was the best engineer. Now I'm just the receptionist. Jennifer shook her head. "You're still brilliant. This front desk thing won't last forever." If only she knew how right she was, but not in the way either of us expected. By the end of my second week, I developed a routine. Answer phones, greet visitors, sort mail, and try not to think about the algorithms and code that used to fill my days. I'd even started bringing romance novels to work, figuring if I was going to be treated like a secretary, I might as well embrace the stereotype. But then something interesting happened. From my position at the front desk, I had a perfect view of the entire lobby and the conference rooms beyond. I could see who was meeting with whom, what documents they were carrying, and most importantly, I could hear fragments of conversations that people thought were private. That's when I noticed Derek's pattern. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m., he'd meet with the same group of people in conference room A. And every Wednesday, he'd emerge from those meetings with new ideas that sounded remarkably familiar. My curiosity was piqued. What was Derek really up to? 3 weeks into my reception desk exile, I'd become invisible. People walked past me discussing confidential projects, personal drama, and company secrets as if I were just another piece of office furniture. It was during one of these invisible moments that I overheard something that changed everything. Derek was escorting a client to the elevator, and their conversation drifted over to my desk. "The compression algorithm is revolutionary," Derek was saying. "It's going to save companies millions in storage costs." My blood ran cold. That was my algorithm, the one I'd been working on before my demotion. The one Derek had never even seen the final version of. "When can we expect the patent filing?" the client asked. "Any day now," Derek replied smoothly. "My team has been perfecting it for months." His team? I'd worked on that algorithm alone, nights and weekends, fueled by determination and way too much coffee. Derek didn't even know what a compression algorithm was 6 months ago. That evening, I stayed late under the pretense of finishing some filing. Once the office emptied, I used my still active employee access card to slip into the engineering department. My old computer had been wiped, but I'd always been paranoid about backups. Hidden in a folder labeled grocery lists on the shared drive were all my original notes, code, and development logs for the algorithm. But what I found in Derek's computer was even more shocking. Not only had he stolen my compression algorithm, but he'd also taken credit for 3 other innovations developed by engineers who'd mysteriously left the company over the past year. There were emails discussing patent applications, licensing deals, and royalty payments, all with Derek's name on them. I printed everything, my hands shaking as the evidence piled up. Derek wasn't just a bad boss, he was a systematic thief, building his career on stolen innovations. But here's the thing about being a software engineer, we're problem solvers by nature. And Derek had just presented me with the most important problem of my career. As I drove home that night, my Mustang's engine purring through the empty streets, I wasn't thinking about my demotion anymore. I was thinking about justice. Derek thought he'd neutralized me by putting me behind a desk, but what he'd actually done was give me the perfect surveillance position. The question was, how do you take down a thief who's already filed the paperwork? The answer came to me as I pulled into my driveway, and it was beautifully simple. I spent the entire weekend crafting my strategy, fueled by leftover Chinese takeout and the kind of righteous anger that makes you dangerous. Derek had made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated me. Monday morning, I arrived at the office with a new attitude. Instead of moping behind the reception desk, I smiled and chatted with everyone who passed by. I complimented visitors on their briefcases and asked about their weekends. To everyone else, I looked like someone who'd finally accepted her fate. But I was actually building an intelligence network. "Oh, you're here to see Derek about the patent licensing?" I'd say to visitors, my voice bright and helpful. He's so excited about his new algorithm. Let me buzz him for you. Every conversation gave me another piece of the puzzle. Derek wasn't just stealing from current employees. He was systematically taking credit for innovations from people who'd already left the company, betting that they'd never find out or wouldn't have the resources to fight back. The beautiful irony was that my demotion had given me access to information Derek never knew I was gathering. As the receptionist, I saw every visitor, handled every piece of mail, and most importantly, I was the one who scheduled Derek's meetings. By Wednesday, I'd mapped out his entire operation. There were at least 6 stolen innovations in various stages of patent applications, with Derek's name as the primary inventor on all of them. The compression algorithm was just the crown jewel. But I needed more than evidence. I needed leverage. That's when I remembered something from my computer science days at MIT. Professor Stevens had always said, the best way to catch a thief is to give them something irresistible to steal. So I created bait. Working late at night in my home office, I developed something that would make Derek's mouth water, a machine learning protocol that could predict market trends with 94% accuracy. It was legitimate, groundbreaking work, the kind of innovation that could be worth millions. But here's the kicker, I built in a fatal flaw. The algorithm would work perfectly for exactly 6 months, then crash spectacularly, taking down any system it was integrated with. And I made sure that only I knew how to fix it. I spent the next 2 weeks accidentally leaving printouts of my work around the office. A few pages by the printer, some code snippets on my desk, casual conversations with Jennifer about my hobby programming project. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for Derek to walk into it. And knowing Derek's pattern, it wouldn't be long. Derek took the bait faster than I'd expected. On Friday afternoon, just as I was getting ready to leave, he approached my desk with that fake smile I'd grown to hate. "Sarah, I've been thinking," he said, perching on the edge of my desk like we were old friends. "I know this transition has been difficult, but I've been impressed with your positive attitude." I looked up from my computer screen, where I'd been working on my market prediction algorithm. "Thanks, Derek. I'm just trying to make the best of it." His eyes drifted to my screen, and I saw the exact moment he spotted the code. His pupils dilated slightly, the same look a shark gets when it smells blood in the water. "What's that you're working on?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Oh, just a little side project," I said, minimizing the window. "Machine learning stuff. Probably nothing important." "Machine learning?" Derek's voice had that strained quality people get when they're trying too hard to sound disinterested. "That's fascinating. I'd love to hear more about it sometime." "Really? I mean, it's just a hobby thing. I'm trying to predict market trends using historical data and sentiment analysis." I paused, watching his face. The early results are pretty promising, but I'm probably not smart enough to make it work properly. Derek's smile became more genuine, or at least, more predatory. "I'm sure you're being modest. Why don't you email me what you have so far? I might be able to give you some guidance." "Would you? That would be amazing." I made sure to sound appropriately grateful and slightly desperate. That weekend, I sent Derek a carefully edited version of my algorithm, complete with documentation that made it look like a world-changing innovation, but missing the crucial stability protocols that would prevent it from self-destructing. By Monday morning, Derek was practically vibrating with excitement. He called me into his office, the first time I'd been invited up to the 15th floor since my demotion. "Sarah, I've been reviewing your algorithm," he said, trying to contain his enthusiasm. "It's very impressive work. Have you considered filing for a patent?" I shook my head. I wouldn't even know where to start. Besides, I'm sure it's nothing compared to what the real engineers are working on. Derek leaned back in his chair, my old chair, in my old office. "Well, I might be able to help you with that. As your supervisor, I could guide you through the patent process. We could even file it under the company's name, which would give you a nice bonus." "You'd do that for me?" I asked, letting my voice crack slightly with emotion. "Of course. We're a team here at Apex." 3 weeks later, Derek had filed my sabotaged algorithm as his own invention, complete with patent application and licensing discussions with major financial firms. He'd even started shopping it around to investors, promising revolutionary returns. And I had every email, every document, and every conversation recorded and documented. The countdown to Derek's destruction had begun. 6 months later, Derek was riding high. The market prediction algorithm had launched to massive fanfare, with 3 major investment firms licensing it for millions. Derek had been promoted to senior vice president, gotten a corner office with a view, and started driving a Tesla that cost more than most people's houses. Meanwhile, I was still answering phones and sorting mail, watching Derek's victory tour from my reception desk. But I wasn't bitter anymore. I was patient. Because I knew something Derek didn't. His golden algorithm was a ticking time bomb. The crash came on a Tuesday morning in October, right during the peak trading hours. The algorithm didn't just fail, it spectacularly imploded, taking down the primary trading systems of all 3 firms that had licensed it. Millions of dollars in trades were lost, markets fluctuated wildly, and the financial news channels were calling it Black Tuesday 2.0. Derek's phone started ringing at 9:15 a.m. and didn't stop. I watched him pace around his office, hands gesturing wildly as he tried to explain to increasingly angry clients why his revolutionary algorithm had just caused the biggest financial software failure in a decade. By noon, the lawyers had arrived. By 2 p.m., the SEC had opened an investigation. By 5 p.m., Derek was packing his belongings while security watched. But I wasn't done yet. That evening, I made a call to TechCrunch, the Wall Street Journal, and 3 other major publications. I had a story to tell about corporate theft, stolen innovations, and a pattern of fraud that went back years. I documented everything: the original algorithms, the stolen patents, the emails, the meetings, and most importantly, the evidence that Derek had built his entire career on other people's work. The story broke the next morning: Senior VP's career built on stolen code, how one woman's revenge algorithm exposed years of corporate theft. But the real kicker came in paragraph 12 of the article, where I revealed that I was the original inventor of not just the sabotaged algorithm, but also the compression technology that had made Derek famous in the first place. I had the original code, the development logs, and the documentation to prove it. Within 48 hours, Derek wasn't just unemployed, he was unemployable. The tech world is small, and word travels fast. Every major company in Silicon Valley knew his name, and not in a good way. The lawsuits started rolling in by the end of the week. The 3 investment firms wanted their money back. The original inventors of the other stolen algorithms wanted justice. And the SEC wanted answers. Derek Richardson's career was over. But mine? Mine was just beginning. 6 months after Derek's downfall, I was sitting in my new corner office, not at Apex Technologies, but at my own company, Martinez Innovations. The compression algorithm patent had been rightfully restored to me, and the licensing deals were bringing in more money than I'd ever dreamed of. But the real victory wasn't financial. It was walking into that courtroom and watching Derek's face as the judge awarded me full ownership of all 6 patents he'd stolen, plus damages for the years of lost revenue. The look of defeat in his eyes was worth more than any paycheck. Jennifer, now my vice president of engineering, stopped by my office with our morning coffee, a tradition we'd maintained since my reception desk days. "Any regrets?" she asked, settling into the chair across from my desk. I looked out the window at the city below, then at the framed articles on my wall detailing Derek's fall from grace. About getting demoted to receptionist? Not a single one. It's funny how life works out. Derek thought he was destroying my career when he put me behind that desk. What he actually did was give me the perfect position to watch, learn, and plan. From that reception desk, I could see everything and everyone. I became invisible to the very people who should have been watching me most carefully. The front desk wasn't my punishment, it was my war room. These days, I tell this story to other women in tech who've been undermined, overlooked, or underestimated. The lesson isn't about revenge, though that part was admittedly satisfying. The lesson is about patience, preparation, and the power of being systematically underestimated. Derek Richardson taught me something valuable. Sometimes the best way to destroy your enemy is to let them destroy themselves. You just have to be smart enough to give them the tools to do it. And patient enough to watch them use them. My red Mustang is still parked in the same spot every morning, but now I take the elevator to the top floor, my floor. And sometimes, when I'm having a particularly good day, I'll walk past the reception desk and smile at whoever's sitting there. Because I know something they don't. The most powerful position in any company isn't always the one at the top. Sometimes it's the one where nobody thinks to watch you. Derek found that out the hard way. And I made sure he'll never forget it. This story is based on real events in corporate America, where intellectual property theft and workplace retaliation happen more often than you'd think. The names have been changed, but the revenge? That was absolutely real.